Basili and Transformation Talk Radio.
She's the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York. Follow her voice, a straight dog is nice. She's a pushy broad from the Bronx, oh yeah. Don't be surprised if you wanna listen twice. Make decisions, find the right choice. Know yourself better, find your own voice. It's okay if you need help today, cause everybody needs a little push. From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.
Good morning and welcome, Transformation Talk Network listeners. My name is Stewart, and I am the Pushy Broad from the Bronx. Welcome to my show, Recovery Recharged, where I share advice and support from experts in addiction and recovery. This episode is another straight talk with the Pushy Broad. As a certified life coach and a recovery coach, I get a chance to coach you once a month for a call-in show. So, if you have any questions for the Pushy Broad this morning, I want you to call 800-930-2819. And that number I will repeat throughout the next 30 minutes. I've got a really special show for you today, and I want to talk to you personally. I want to talk to you about relationships and active addiction. Are you in a relationship with someone that has an alcohol or drug problem? Or are you the person with substance abuse difficulties in an active relationship yourself? If you are one of those two people, then here are some really good tips and suggestions for you. Lots of people ask me questions all the time about how can I survive my relationship in active addiction. And I am going to answer those questions for you today. So whether you are the person who is working with someone who has an addiction issue, or whether you're the person with the addiction issues, I suggest you listen very carefully. Here are the most popular questions I get. And again, we're open to viewer and listener questions by calling 800-930-2819. So here we go. Jessica, what's question number one?
How do trust issues impact a relationship when one partner frequently lies about their substance abuse?
Trust, right? The number one thing in any relationship is trust. But when you're suffering with an addiction and you're thinking about where your next drink is coming from, or where your next smoke is coming from, or where your next drug is coming from, you're not thinking about telling the truth to anybody except where am I going to get what I need to feed my addiction? So lying goes hand in hand with this addiction. In fact, it's even mentioned in the American Society of Addiction Medicine. The person on the other end, the person who is not the addict, always says to me, my partner's always lying to me and they're never telling me the truth and I could never trust them. And you know what? You're absolutely right. Because someone in active addiction cannot be trusted. I know. I'm 39 years clean and sober, and my life beforehand was one of a duplicitous adventure. I was a different person. I would lie, cheat, or steal for the drugs that I was getting, and don't expect it to be any different from the person that's in active addiction. So, do you think it's going to undermine your relationship? Without a doubt. But I want you to understand that that person who's lying to you is not trying to hurt you. People think, oh my God, he's doing this to me. He's lying to me, or she's lying to me. It's not about you at all. It's about covering up the fact that that substance is taking control of your partner's life. And if you're in early recovery and you're trying to do your best and you are clean and sober, then realize that you're not going to be trusted for a while. Okay? Trust is earned. It takes time. Understand that and live with it, and you'll be far better off in the process. Okay? Trust is earned. Jessica, question number 2.
What are the potential consequences of addiction on a couple's financial stability and future planning?
Everybody who is dealing with a partner in an active addiction knows what it is doing on to your money. Okay. All of a sudden, money is missing. All of a sudden, your credit card has purchases on it that you never saw before. All of a sudden, maybe something worth more than money, like your jewelry, is gone, or something that you had of great value is no longer there. And when you question the person that's in active addiction, that person says, I don't know what you're talking about. Or I don't know anything about it. It's on you. You must have lost it, or you must have spent it and not know anything about it. Addiction will devastate a couple's financial stability. It's going to drain your savings because it costs money to buy drugs and alcohol. Not to mention the fact that the person that's in active addiction is probably missing work, incurring debt, and it does not enable both of you to make any long-term plan whatsoever. So, one of the biggest reasons why relationships fail in active addiction is the financial stability and the future planning of where the couple's money is coming from. So I want you to take a really good look if you're with a partner that seems to drain your finances, because as long as they are not clean and sober, that is going to continue. Be aware. Jessica, question number 3.
How does escalating addiction typically affect levels of intimacy and affection between partners?
You know what that's like, right? If somebody's in active addiction, it affects everything that you do. And if you're the one that's in active addiction, all you're thinking about is, when can I use again? What do I do between the time that I am actively using? Probably your sexual attraction is completely eroding, because that's what happens when we're active alcoholics or active addicts. Your partner is tremendously neglected because you're more focused on you're prioritizing those substances. Or maybe if you're the person who's waiting for the active addict to come around and to do things with and to go out with and show up with, how many times have you gone to social events by yourself because your partner just wasn't there for you? How many times have you made excuses to family members for why your partner couldn't join you at an event or a holiday situation? That's never going to stop when someone is in active addiction. And the more they are not clean and sober, the more this is going to escalate. So your level of intimacy and affection is going to decrease proportionately. It's up to you whether or not you want to stay in this. Question number 4, Jessica.
In what ways can addiction provoke abusive behavior towards a partner, and what forms might this abuse take?
Have you ever seen your partner angry when they've been drinking or smoking too much or doing drugs, taking pills, or just getting out of hand? Some drunks are passive, some drunks fall asleep, but some drunks are loud, yelling, screaming, causing scenes, being more abusive, actually going after you, hurting you in some way, trying to get behind the wheel, hurting someone else in the process. There are so many things that go from mild abusive behavior to drastic and dangerous abusive behavior, because an active addict just is going through internal turmoil and frustrations because they can't control it. And many times it's not their fault in active addiction. So sometimes we want to be angry if we are that person, that person on the other side. But understand, they have no control. It's the disease that has taken over. I always talk to couples that are not in active addiction, or the person that's looking at the person who's the alcoholic and the drug addict, and telling them that that's not the person you wanted to be with. That's the green-eyed monster in the room. And you can't rationalize with the green-eyed monster. You can't talk to the active addict. But abusive behavior, I want you to leave that situation if you are in that spot. You cannot put up with abusive or dangerous behavior. It's time for you to stop being a victim. So, if you have questions about today's topic, which is whether or not you can survive an addictive, active addiction relationship, I need you to call me right now at 800-930-2819, 800-930-2819. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about your relationship anonymously. I'm not going to mention any names. 800-930-2819. Jessica, question number 5.
How do the presence and well-being of children influence a person's decision to stay in or leave a relationship impacted by addiction?
I talk to many wives about their husbands, wives with children who have said to me, I want my child to know his father, or I want my child to know her mother, if that's the person in active addiction. I don't want to remove my child from the other parent. For some reason, they think that the child won't survive. I want you to know that the child knows when there is something wrong in a relationship. Time and time again, there is documented evidence by experts in the field of recovery, people that I have had on this show, that will tell you that children can sense when there is friction in a relationship, whether or not there is addiction present. But when there is addiction present, children are afraid for their own well-being. Someone that is in active addiction has significantly impacted their child's well-being. Do you have a husband or wife that is chauffeuring your kids around to a soccer game or to martial arts practice or to ballet practice when you know specifically they've been drinking? Have you allowed that to happen on your watch? I want you to think very hard about what's really important here. And if you are a drinker where you have drank a half a bottle or a whole bottle of wine that night and the next day think you're still not under the influence, you are mistaken. So stop thinking that your children will be better off with two parents in the house. They won't be, not when one of them is in active addiction. Think about their safety, their emotional development, and creating a stable environment. This is going to compel you to find other ways to protect your children. Jessica, number 6.
What are the behaviors that signify a partner is enabling another's addiction, and how can these complicate recovery?
There are so many times that someone sits in front of me and says, I know this will pass. They're not drinking as much as they did before, and they're only having 3 or 4 glasses a night, or they're only having a 6-pack of beer, or they are just not doing the same things they did before, and I know this is going to pass. That's enabling. That's being in denial about how difficult and how serious your partner's addiction actually is. Stop making excuses for what they're doing. How many times do you make excuses to other people for what they're doing? How many times do you make excuses to yourself for your partner's situation? How many times? And if you think by making excuses or covering up, or even more than that, maybe financially bailing them out, do you find that the credit card debt is run up because they're in liquor stores constantly, or money is mysteriously gone and you're paying debts, or money to their drug dealer has to be paid in fear of their life? How many times have you paid out money? How many times have you taken out loans for them? How many times? decide today that this stops. Besides, you're not helping. Okay? I need you to remember that. You are not helping. Even though your actions may be well-intentioned, you are prolonging the act of addiction and you are directly hindering recovery efforts. So, if you have questions for me about relationships and active addiction today, no matter what side of that coin you're on, I want you to call me at 800-930-2819. I'm answering questions live on the air. Just see what it's like to be coached by the Pushy Broad. Okay, Jessica, number 7.
What are the mental health risks for non-addicted partners in relationships where the other partner is struggling with addiction?
So, are you anxious? Are you worried yourself? Are you filled with stress, anxiety? Are you depressed? Do you wake up every morning and saying, oh my God, I have to go through this again? Do you understand that your own mental health is at risk because you are taking care of someone that basically does not know or understand how to take care of themselves? And if that means it's a husband or a partner or a wife and you have children to boot, does that mean you have an extra child in the family? Are you taking on the second or third child and that's your partner? And are you deciding that this is your lot in life, that this is what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to wake up and say, oh my God, I'll just struggle because I'll be a martyr through this. Even though I'm at the lowest point of my own personal development and I have put aside all of my goals and dreams to take care of this person in active addiction. Is that what you think your life is supposed to be? Those are the intense mental health risks for non-addicted partners in relationships. What are you doing to yourself? I tell people over and over again, if you don't put that oxygen mask on first before you feed it to other people, then you are dying a very slow and agonizing and painful death. And we don't want to see that happen. So rise up today. Tell yourself no more. And if you want more coaching by the Pushy Broad, I need you to go to pushybroadfromthebronx.com and sign up for a free consultation and then begin to do some really good coaching with the Pushy Broad from the Bronx. I'm here to help you. Jessica, next question.
Can a relationship endure multiple relapses by a recovering addict, and what factors influence its resilience? Sorry.
There's no easy answer to that question. Can a relationship endure multiple relapses? Sometimes, yes, they can. I have had people that have become clean and sober for a substantial period of time because they have relapsed on multiple occasions. Everybody is different. I need you to understand. Recovery is not a one-size-fits-all program, no matter what. Treatment centers have different approaches. The rooms have different approaches. The type of recovery we are deciding to choose is different. The partner that I'm with during this recovery process is different. So here it is. The couple has to decide what's working and what's no longer working. Are you happy in your relationship with the person who is a recovering addict or a struggling recovery addict? Are you happy? Do you want this to work? Are you still retaining your own identity? Are you allowing yourself to be you? Or are you enabling? Or are you codependent? Then that relationship isn't working if that's the case. But I always, as a recovery coach, support people in recovery. If you're not in recovery, I am supporting you to treatment and to finding ways to get clean and sober. Can your relationship survive? That's up to you. But that means it has to be productive and healthy and independent and together at the same time, which is a very tough blend. So it doesn't matter whether or not you're going in for the long term. I need you to think about whether the short term is actually working for you. What are you gaining? What are you losing? Hopefully, you get well together. Jessica, next question.
How crucial is professional intervention in dealing with addiction within relationships, and what change does it initiate?
In the rooms, we say a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. For me, that basically means I can't do this alone. I need help. Okay. So you have to put your big pants on, your adult pants on, and say, I need help. Whether you are the person who is working with the person, or the partner of the person in active addiction, or whether you are that person in active addiction, I need you to understand that your active addiction cannot continue. And if you have tried individual ways on your own and you've done the same thing over and over again and gotten the same result over and over again, then professional intervention is key, crucial for addressing addiction within relationships. It gives you an objective perspective. It offers you structured support. It initiates constructive dialogues and gives you other strategies for recovery. And one of those ways is to reach out to the Pushy Broad at pushybroadfromthebronx.com. Let's see what else we can do. Understand that there are other people that know more than you. There is all kinds of new treatments, all kinds of new ways to help the addict today. So get over it thinking that you can do it all yourself. You can't. That's why help is here in 2025. And no matter where you are in this process, all of your questions are anonymous. All of the help that you receive stays between us. So if you have a question today about addictions and relationships, call me at 800-930-2819. Jessica, next question.
How can the non-addicted partner provide support that encourages recovery without fostering dependency and enabling behaviors?
Part of the stuff we talked about before. Go to an Al-Anon meeting, which is for people that are seeking support. If you are not necessarily the addicted person, and there is also professional treatment without judgment. There's also working with the Pushy Broad from the Bronx without judgment, and a lesson in avoiding enabling behaviors. Find out what it means to be codependent. Find out what it means to deny your partner's addiction. Find out what it means to have your own identity again and do your own thing. Jessica, next question.
What are the effects of keeping an addiction secret from a partner, particularly regarding trust and financial transparency?
Secrets erode relationships completely. I'm not saying that couples don't have secrets. There are little things, but something this big, a relationship cannot stand. It's just disintegrating. It just depends upon when you're actually going to end it, because it will erode trust. Financial transparency will disappear, and the pillars of the entire healthy relationship will crumble. All of these crises make it a drama-filled relationship that just will not stand. Jessica, let's take one more question.
After an addiction is addressed, what steps can couples take to begin repairing trust and emotional connectivity?
Okay. Can couples survive active addiction? Absolutely not. Can couples survive someone going into recovery or addressing the addiction head on and taking steps to repairing trust and emotional connectivity? Absolutely. That's the way we want it to go. You do not abandon your loved one if they are trying to succeed in recovery. This is where your support, your love, your attention, your connection comes in. You support them in their active recovery. And that's what I want you all to realize. If somebody is working on staying clean and sober, then we give them the love, the affection, and the attention that they need and that they want. In the meantime, you begin to love and nurture yourself. So if you have more questions about addiction and relationship, I want you to go to pushybroadfromthebronx.com. Make an appointment with me today. There is always hope. Thanks so much for tuning in today. And the Pushy Broad, we'll see you next time. This is Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, saying thanks for listening. And remember, everybody needs a little push.
From the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, New York.